Hi, this is Jeffrey Kerr Financial Group. Today is Friday, September 5, 2025. I want to cover three things today. The jobs data for August, which was reported earlier this morning. The global bond market, which is really being stressed out. And then we'll touch upon the stock market. So to start, the jobs data, which was reported this morning for August, it was estimated that only 22,000 jobs were created in the month, and that's much weaker than the 75,000 that was expected. And in fact, this report is the weakest since July of 2021. So that points towards the interest rate cut, and I don't think was gonna change it anyway. We're gonna get a cut in a couple of weeks from the Fed, but it just gives it more ammunition for those pushing for a cut and maybe several cuts and even a bigger cut. But again, so jobs data pretty weak this morning. Secondly, the global bond market. I'm going to put up a chart here of all the mostly the developed markets and what's going on here. This red line on all these markets is what the long bond, the 30-year bonds in each of these individual countries is, and except for Switzerland, they're all virtually from lower left to upper right, and has been making new highs on the bond yields, which means higher interest rates. And there's a lot of ramifications from this. Higher borrowing costs. People who have purchased these bonds and months ago are now underwater. So the concern is that some of the banks who hold bonds are now have unrealized losses on their balance sheet. Does that stress the institutions and like that? So again, it also in these charts there is a blue line and a black line which shows what the policy is, and the blue line is what the market's pricing in for those short-term rates that are controlled by the individual central banks. So I think it's pretty interesting, and it does point towards the interest rates moving higher around the world, and also again it points towards that the bond market is might be stressing out and the total financial system. But we'll see. If it stays here, maybe markets could adjust and everything will be okay. But I wanted to point that out. And then lastly, just touch upon the stock market in a shortened week. Closing at all-time highs. The news, appeared. One of the things that sparked it was the Google dismissal of an antitrust case. Don't know if that's going to get appealed, but certainly it's helped the tech sector in Google. And what appears to be in the last couple of days is just a lot of algorithmic buying and zero DTE, zero data expiration on options of algorithms trading these things and pushing the stock market higher. Again, things that look to be okay maybe in the economy, but again, I think there's been a lot of algorithmic influences this week in the stock market. So again, as a reminder, I'll be part of the crew that's going to be ringing the closing bell this afternoon at the New York Stock Exchange. Looking forward to that, and I'll be back with some pictures and stories about that too. Have a great weekend, and I'll be back on Monday. Thank you again. Goodbye.